show is brought to you by Health Plans, your Medicare plans, insurance solutions, and resource agency. We have a variety of plans and products that fit your needs, benefit requirements, and budget, with many low or no-cost premium plans, zero co-pays, and much more. Our licensed benefits advisor's priority is your health and well-being. Call us today and book your no-obligation consultation. 1-929-367-5269.
Folks, welcome back to the NBC Network with your host, Hurricane H. This is also the Sales World channel and all the other channels with a new twist. This is the show we've been waiting for. You've seen the announcement a couple months ago, and we're here. This is the Mayhem Show. Yes, you heard it, the Mayhem Show. And with me, you can see the May part, Mazin. And, so just to get, I guess the big elephant out of the room here. So Mayhem, Mazin, M-A, and my first name is Hisham, so H-I-C-H-A-M, so last three letters Ham, so Mayhem. Along the lines of the history why we actually call ourselves Mayhem, we're going to talk about that today. So Maz, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me, Hurricane.
Yeah, man, it's been a minute. We've been actually trying to put this for like, what, a year or so already?
Yeah. About a year now.
About a year, yep. Well, here's the good news. We're here. That's all that matters, and we're going to enlighten our folks out there about, a little bit of, we're going to bring some mayhem to the table here. That's all. And by the way, folks, as you're watching right now, you might wonder, well, why the Mayhem? Yeah, we give you the first letters of his name and my name. But really, actually, Mazin and I would go back, 26 years? A little over 26 years, actually, as colleagues, friends, partners in business, and a lot of other things. All good. and one of the things that, in a past life of ours, we were actually, when they saw us coming together to a room or an office or a conference, they either refer to us as "Here comes double trouble," or "Here comes Mayhem." So thus, and hence the actual name that we have today. So that's just, I had to get that out of the way. So before people ask now you know. But so this show will be dedicated to really our core business, which is anything that has to do with sales and leadership, management in the managed care space, insurance space. Even real estate. We're going to talk about real estate because, again, I mentioned partnerships, so we're going to talk about that. But so today's show is really just an introduction about who we are, what we do, what we've done, and where we've come from, and, what we are, going to do with the show. And hopefully, folks listening, watching right now, you might benefit from some of the insights that we're going to share with you. And a lot of this is based on real scenarios, real practices, things that we've come across. Now, many of you know me. Obviously, this is the NBC Network, and this is one of the shows that we participate in and that I produce. But Mazin is new to this, and this is going to be our platform for this particular show model. However, we go back. Mazin, I talk a lot, as you know. So now, why don't you jump in and tell us a little bit about, when did you and I met a long time ago. I don't want to say the story. Why don't you give us that story? And that was a fun story too.
Yeah, no. So we both were applying for HIP when it was called HIP before it became Emblem when they merged with GHI. We were going for an interview. Somebody that I knew brought me in for an interview. Somebody that Hisham knew brought him in for an interview. We both walked into the waiting room in the HR area, and we looked at each other. We both, he heard Mazin, I heard Hisham. I'm like, this is competition. We were like, we were ready. We thought this is like we were going for one job. We thought this is it, and we have to impress. And we both looked at each other with the gaze of, the competition is here. So we both got the job eventually. We both ended up on the same team in Brooklyn. And as I say, the rest is history. But when we both went for that interview so many years ago, like you said, over 26 years ago, we originally started looking at each other as competition. We grew as a friendship, as a partnership, because at the end of the day, when we first just said hello and they just shook hands and said, oh, we're not the competition. We can lead the pack by being a partnership and showing people how two individuals that didn't know each other from the past but became friends, and then we showed the world what we can do over there. So it was great. Again, that look. When we looked, we heard each other's names, because not many Arabic people were applying that day. I put it that way. And when you hear another Arabic name, you turn your head. You hear a Mike, a Scott, a Joe, a John. It's average.
Well, I am John. Remember.
You know what I mean. But you hear a name like that, you don't turn. You don't see that. But when you hear, Hisham Al Mahdi up for an interview, Mazin Farraj up for an interview, we both turned our heads and like, another Arab. So it was good. It was good. It was exciting to say there was other Arabs there. I tell you the truth, because again, not many of us in the industry at that time. Today, of course, there's probably more than when we started 26 years ago, 27 years ago. But it was exciting to see other people of like backgrounds, going for the same position. But I think it was exciting at that time, just that initial, like this, like we just looked like that, like it's like, oh, who's that?
So Maz, hold on. I want to interject just to clarify for the audiences, because the context just of what the contest context. I confused those both. The context of what happened. Okay, so Mazin came from an insurance company at the time, and I came from a different insurance company. As he stated, his manager, moved to this new company, HIP, as health insurance plan of New York at the time. That was the actual plan. And then I came from Health Plus. He came from Health First. And we basically were recruited by our manager at the time. Now, we were representatives of the day. So him and I, we had started as marketing reps or sales reps for the managed care industry. And that was at the time where in New York City or New York State, it was a demonstration project where that's where they first initiated managed care and mandatory and all that stuff in the Medicaid space and government programs before Medicare even started really getting into it. And so he started 93, I started 93, but we were competition then, but we didn't know each other. So now here we are in this particular place. And also, since you mentioned you hear Sham and you hear Mazin, that's because at the time, in this industry, there were very few of Arab descent that were actually in this industry. Actually, we were one of the first ones. And one of the reasons I had stated this in one of the shows, that the reason I was recruited is because I was multilingual and I spoke both, Arabic, French and Spanish, and they needed those combinations in Brooklyn, at least in the company I was. And I was one of two at the time. And I think Mazin was the only one at the other place. Mm-hmm. And so to his surprise and mine, when we go into this place, we got this, when the manager's there, and I think we got this, we got our, little bit of empowerment, and then I see him, I'm like, oh, damn. And he sees me, he leaves me that look like, what, yeah, this is not yours. I'm getting this shit. So that was kind of like, how it went. And then that's it. I did my thing. And here's the fun part. We actually crossed managers, meaning I interviewed with his guy and he interviewed with my lady. And so we kind of crossed paths. So technically we both did well apparently. And then a week later, we actually had the start date. And so I just wanted to actually put that, in framework here so people understand the background. And we were at the time just sales reps. So for those of you in the sales world, in the managed care industry and or leadership today, this is actually 28 years ago, not 26, just to be exact. This was sometimes in June of 1996. I think 96. Yeah. Wow. So we're just past the 28 mark here. So but it's pretty, it's a lifetime. I mean, for many. And, that was, now, when we went to this company, it was when Medicare was just, becoming in the managed care space. And there were only a few plans that offered those kind of products. And so they needed some people that have the skills and the expertise in sales. And we had about 3 years in the field at the time. And we were also good at we were one of the top reps in the Medicaid space and the Child Health Plus and or the children's insurance at the time. And so, we were literally already doing our thing and, having a name for ourselves in those companies. And that was before we got into management. So at that point, we started in the Medicare space as the new bees. And Medicare was literally, that was year one where this company went into an actual managed care concept for Medicare. Now, again, for those of you who are watching, Medicaid, is one thing, Medicare is another. So this is for anyone with 65 of age or older, or they have some sort of disability over 24, yada, yada. So we will break those down later on. But so that was it. So that was the intro. But it was funny because here we are, the competition, we hit each other, for the first look. And then on our orientation day, like, oh, you made it. Yes, I did. You too. Yes, I did. And the rest was like, okay, so we go out to lunch. And then Mazin stated something powerful is that, we could compete, against each other. And there were other people. And then, or we can just team up and make it different. And that's exactly what we decided to do. And later on in the years, and we'll talk about this in future shows, how we did that. In not only at the level of reps, but also level of VP level, right? And so that's kind of like how it all started. That's 28 years ago. A month later, actually, I got introduced, to his family, and I happened to attend his wedding, and I've seen all his children, born into this world, and and it just became a friendship and brotherhood, and just a family. As I got adopted into his family, by the way. so that took a whole different spin. But so that's just the start. And again, this is the first show for the Mayhem Show, so we're just introducing who we are and how it all started and why today we're actually making this happen. Because obviously I've been doing this for 3 years, and I've been asking Mazin to join me on this venture and do a show that is dedicated to what we've been through and how we can potentially help you guys out there to guide you whatever shape and form in this industry or the realm of sales and leadership and all these things. So that's that. So Mazin, sorry, I just wanted to do all that, but so let's take it from there.
No, as they say, the rest is history. We stayed at HIP for a few years. Hisham went to bigger and better, became a director at his previous employ. I stayed at Emblem for 10 years, where, after we left Emblem, we then reunited as a team at VNSNY, where that's where the Mayhem name came from, or Double Trouble. Because basically when we went in there in any meeting, we would just take over. Because salespeople, in general and by nature, just want to lead. They want to take over. They want to just give their opinion, their advice, their input. People, would sit there and say, "You guys are saying basically the same thing." Yeah, Hisham has one delivery method. I have another delivery method, but they saw us together and how we were able to grow an organization. Like Hisham said, in future meetings and shows, you'll hear how we took a plan that, was in its infancy, because VNSNY was more of a hospice organization. There were managed long-term care organization. There were home care. Now they said, well, we want to try Medicare Advantage. When we started, it was called Medicare. Then it was called Choice. Then it was called A and B plus C. It was so many different variations of the names throughout the years. That eventually now to today's name, which is Medicare Advantage, it was an interesting way to see how the evolution of Medicare went from where it was when we started, Hisham. 2 years after that, when we first started, they said, we got to regulate it. They made everybody get licensed. Then we went and got licensed to be, able to sell Medicare Advantage. But I think, the history of Medicare Advantage, and you and I being there basically day one when all these plans started to get into that business, because there's a lot of money to be made, and of course, in Medicare Advantage. HIP at the time, HIP Health Insurance Plan of Greater New York, was already in the business about 48 years. They said, we want to build a plan, because they used to deal with city, state, federal. They had group insurance, commercial insurance, but they never really got into state programs like Medicare. They had Medicaid, but again, everyone was now trying to, move into this new avenue called Medicare. But I think at the time when Hisham and I were reps, we were already trendsetters. We would work together. Even at that time, we had managers that said, if I'm going to write one of you up, who do I write? And we were like, do I write anybody up? Is the numbers coming in? Yeah. So then what's the problem, right? Like, they couldn't understand how quickly we became friends and colleagues and partners, how the world was like dumbfounded. How are you guys doing it? And like, we built a formula where, salespeople today, if they don't get nothing, they say, oh, well, we didn't get any enrollments today. Hisham and I said, if we don't go home with at least 2 each, we don't go home. So we would start.
Time out. It was 5, dude. It was 5. It was not 2.
Well, it was 2 each, and then the third, the extra one was for you. Then tomorrow, the extra one was for me. Again, that was our formula, right? So if we don't go home with 5, basically the first day, let's just say Hisham got 3, I got 2. The next day, we would make sure I got 3, he got 2, at a minimum. We would always put a minimum on the floor, so we would hit that minimum. If we got 6 or 7, that's even better, right? But people were not. I don't want to say the word jealous. I would say more envious of how we were getting the job accomplished. It was exciting.
Man, I want to just to add a couple of things to that while we're at it. So Mazin is referring to, because we came from the world of Medicaid, right? And we were excelling there, and we were doing super good. As a matter of fact, Mazin was already a supervisor actually at HealthFirst at the time, and I was already doing like community relations and and events marketing at the time. So we kind of elevated a little bit from the sales, direct sales, to do more than just that recertification, all the stuff. That's what I did myself. And so when we did, we had a variety of expertises already that are coming in, and also our personalities, all this stuff. So when we got in, the first thing is we figured out a way. We need to be the top, and we could do it alone and compete against it. We can do it united. So that's where you hear me all the time in different shows that say, in unity there is strength, which is a big thing in Brooklyn, and it's a big, saying that we all, know what it means. But that's what we played, one team, one dream kind of concept, and we did it. And so because we had other reps that we had to compete against, and obviously we had targets, in sales there's always a goal, a target, or quota, whatever you want to call it. So we did that, and so what we did is, like we say, okay, where our goal is, I think that our target was 35, and we wanted to do double than that. And at the time, commissions, for those of you brokers today listening and watching, you probably will not believe, but the commission was like $30, not $500 or $600 or $900 per app. So now you had to do volume to actually get that. So you need to be like on 100 a month to really make some decent dollars. So what we did is, like, by working together in the same aspect, like, we didn't work individually. So I'm talking to people, I'm engaging their interest, and, he's doing a presentation, or vice versa. We go to a senior center, we pitch them, we do a presentation, we bounce back and forth. And then at the end, people are interested. We used to do seminars and stuff. So they come in, and then we start talking to them and explain them. And then we do the application enrollment. So that's how we did. And he referred to, like, what a manager stated to us one time. We had a great month, and she said, but people are talking, how do I differentiate? We had like one app every month. He's got one extra, I got one extra. And he's like, well, how do I write you up? And he's like, you're not going to write us up, because we're always doubling the targets or tripling the targets. Well, there's no way. We're not worried about that part. So if people are not happy about it, too bad. Let them do exactly what we do, and that's it. So we're very competitive that way. And I think that's what Mazin was referring to. But also, I want to just state something. Mazin, you skipped about 8 years. You went to VNS directly. You try to summarize it, but we got to break all that timeline, because there's a lot of stuff that we did in between that time, to VNS.
I was just talking about the health insurance aspect of it versus the other business. Oh
no, this is all of it, baby. We're gonna show. We want to show people today is that in the world of sales and business, or anything that you do in life, I believe you heard me again previous shows talking about, I don't put all my eggs in one basket, and there's always something going on. I'm always cooking. I mean, I'm doing this, I'm in insurance, I'm doing other things. We got fitness, we got this, and so on and so forth. But that's really that's historic. And Mazin and I, we go back to a lot of things, and we're going to share with you some entrepreneurship that we've had, and some business that we've had that were successful, along the line. This is not about boasting or anything, guys. This is about sharing that whatever level you are, whatever you are today in your life, there's opportunity out there. And sometimes you cannot do it solo. Maybe by having a partner or someone else that you can team up with, you can do much better, and that's where you succeed. So that's really the concept today. So Maz, take it from there. Sorry.
Well, we can go back those missing 8 years, Hisham.
Yeah, let's go back.
When we were, again, once we became friends and we became colleagues, the brotherhood, as Hisham says it, was getting stronger. we invested in property together. We opened up a company together that led to basically become partners in a real estate school. We did a lot in between, of course, because I think what Hisham and I found was when you team up together, if I'm down today, Hisham picks me up. If he's down tomorrow, I pick him up. We picked each other up again. We were good. It wasn't where how the old adage says opposites attract because you're looking for a significant other. With us, we were both like this, going together. I think that was the more important factor where we didn't want the other person to fail. We wanted to succeed, and we pushed each other. The drive, what people don't understand when you're in a partnership, people sit there and say today, why do partnerships don't last? Because the other person gets jealous, or the other person gets, envious, or the other person says, why are you making more money than me? Or why did you do that? We have a really, I think, I don't want to say, a unique relationship where we basically didn't really argue a lot. We never really went head to head, toe to toe, butted heads a lot. And Hisham will tell you, we're both Taurus, we're both bulls. We're both,
we're a week apart. We actually get, hold on, that's important. We only get once a year, we get about the same age, 1 week that we're at the same age. So I'm actually older, 1 year older. So it's only one time a year where we actually are the same age pretty much. And then I just take over.
6 days, right? 6 days in the middle.
And then I go to the next year, and then I kind of tell him how it feels, in the next year. So, but hold on, Mazin, that's something important you said, about how we are working, like we never clash. As a matter of fact, listen, Mazin not picnic, neither am I. And I can tell you what it is that we kind of look like, many people even look at us as the yin and yang. So we complement, right? So what my faults are his strengths and vice versa, and we put them together, and that's where it makes it very solid. And again, for you listening out there, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, what you're doing. If you can find that synergy with someone, that is important, especially in business. And and you support each other. And to your point, no jealousy here. He bought the bigger house. I was happy for him, and then eventually I got to the bigger house. So these are things, and you shouldn't feel like different about certain things and whatever. Everybody has their own views and and it's okay. He's got his own vision of how he pats his stuff. Me, I have my own. But that's the whole thing. That's the concept of friendship, concept of brotherhood and partnership. But it takes sacrifice. Of course, we could have clashed 10,000 times a minute, but it's about, I take some, he takes some. We cool down. If we're not agreeing, we can agree to disagree. We can chill a little bit and come back and do this. And that's kind of like how it happens. So I just wanted to about that whole thing with the age business.
Yeah, but again, Hisham, people go through life, and I think, in like, I call it trimesters, right? Every 30 years or every 10 years, you have a best friend. They move, you get married, I get married, we move apart. Very, very seldomly do you get friendships that last, 30 years. Because again, you go to high school, you have a friend, you move on. You go to college, you have a best friend, you move on. You don't see each other that often. You go to elementary school, you have a friend, you don't see each other that often. But when you have a relationship that we've built together as a team, as a friendship, as a brotherhood, that's nearly 30 years, it's really unheard of anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's in the industry. It doesn't matter if it's your friend down the street. Everybody grows apart. We've gone through a lot of trials and tribulations, good times and bad times together. But our friendship, again, you got to understand that whoever's listening to this broadcast that you have, understand it's very hard to maintain a 30-year friendship, a brotherhood, that's not blood related, and that's something that you have to admire. You have to, you have to really just take hold of that, and for me personally, I admire that relationship. I relish it because I think it's important to sit there and understand that friends come and go. Other than relatives that you're stuck with, whether you like them or not, they're forever. But if you think about friendships, none really last the fate of time, right? We go through a lot of things that people separate, or they'll see each other once in a while, and it becomes less frequent to it's a phone call every 10 years or at a reunion. So I'm proud of the fact that we've built a bond that lasted this long, that we can actually sit there and say, shit, we have history that a lot of people can never really say that about a friend. You hear about childhood friends, right? People have childhood friends, but then they get married, they move on, they get graduate, they move to another state. You don't see each other, you don't interact with each other. Here we have a friendship, a bond, a relationship, a brotherhood that's transcending all those other issues that goes through on in life. So for me, I cherish that relationship, because there are times that I relied on you, there are times that you relied on me, personal, business, and what have you. And I think that's important for people to understand. And I think, again, in my mind, I can't speak for you or for anybody else, I think that's something to admire. And I admire that fact that we built that, that we built that connection, that you, like you said, you went to my wedding 2 weeks after we met. You came to my wedding. Happened to be that I was engaged and ready to go, right? And then I'm like, Hisham, I know you just met me, but hey, would like to come to my wedding, and it's like from there, it's like you don't look back, because again, very hard to sit there and try to, again, it might sound corny, but invite a person you just met to your wedding that you didn't even know you previously had 2 weeks. So again, I sit there and I look back and it amazes me how we've managed to really click the way we clicked, bonded the way we bonded as brotherhood, and stayed friends for 28 years. Again, that doesn't happen very often. We know how many people in the industry shop. You and I joke about we probably hired, trained, and brought half the industry in because we were in the two biggest companies, right? So we understand that people come and go. We understand people that we've hired, moved on and did different things, and themselves are management, because again, that's stuff that you and I accomplished. Because as leaders, you're not just there to direct people and tell them do this, do this, do this. You nurture people. And the people that we thought were management material, we nurtured. How many people we promoted from within when the company's like, go outside the company, hire somebody from outside. You and I would challenge them and say, no, I think we should nurture people and promote them from within, because it shows, there's a ladder here, right? And it shows that we believe in what we want. We believe in what we do. A lot of that came from just really you and I interacting, and then keeping that, even when we separated companies, keeping that philosophy, because that's what people then, again, I hope after all these years, people who've worked for us, with us, alongside of us, underneath us, could admire and respect what we did. Because I think everyone that's out in the industry today, that's been around for as long as we have, can speak to what we've done. And not a lot of people can say that.
Well, thanks, Mazin. And you bring in some serious points there. We've talked about our connection at HIP, and at the time, I only stayed there for 6 months, actually. Literally, that's all it was. And then I as Mazin mentioned, because I in the previous story I had shared that I had wanted a management role, and eventually it opened up, and I did go back to the management role, and I got it, and that was the entry point for me in the leadership space, and from that point on, never went backwards. But that, and then Mazin, same thing. About a year later, also he stayed at HIP and became the lead, in the sales team there. And so we competed against each other. That's the other thing. We were friends, having a good time, chilling over the weekends, and we killed each other during the week, but we never shared the secret. Actually, we kept our business strategies separate. So business and pleasure are two different things. There is a spin I'm going to just throw in here, although that's kind of like later in the time. But believe it or not, I actually even reported to Mazin at a company for a stint. And let me tell you, that is not easy for him to manage his best friend, and for me to actually, work under my best friend's leadership, where, we clash and we both have similar experiences, but, we have hierarchies. It's like being a general and a colonel, and you have that friendship, but, the ranking still is elevated and you have to deal with it. It's not a picnic. So you might get into these situations, and some people even looked at us like, can you even do that? because you have to be able to partition and separate, the relationship, at work and after work. I'll tell him off at the end, but at work, it's work. If I don't do my job, that's it. I mean, he's going to have to tell me what needs to be done, and I have to deliver. So those are some of the dynamics, and we can talk about those in future shows and how that whole strategy could work, because there's a lot of debate about, can you when there's talent, there's talent. Sometimes people miss talent because they look at these, friendship, relationship and stuff, and they think that there's some conflict. It could be a conflict, but if the right people do it, there is no conflict. You make it work and you still succeed. Right. And we've done a good job at it. And we'll talk about those in later on. So I just, wanted to capture that part. But Mazin, so 6 months I left, then that's it. But you said something about bringing some companies and doing a lot of things. So let's go back in time and, break that down a little bit, because in about 1999, right, we had already had 3, investment properties. Oh, no, actually, I forgot that. So you're talking about real estate. So in that same time when we started, at the insurance, I forgot about that. We actually went and got our real estate license because we wanted to get into the business, but we didn't want to get into the business not knowing how the business operated. So actually we went, took a class, and, we got our license. We started at Calabrese, in Staten Island, Century 21, and we've done some sales there. And then once we got to know the industry from the inside and able to capture that part, so there's the insurance here and there's the real estate now in parallel. So we only are a couple of years behind in the real estate, but we started early on. And, again, there's money to be made. And again, we are salespeople and we can do that. So this is also something we want to spin here today and maybe even in future shows, that you can have, 2 lives, in parallel. And you always have to, especially if you're ambitious enough and you want to have different, means and streams of income and whatever the case may be. And real estate is always a place where investing is always going to get you some money. So we've done some crazy stuff and invested in the years. And we made also mistakes later on, and we can talk about those and, maybe things that you should avoid not doing. But they're not mistakes, they're lessons that we've learned from and then moved on, and that's about it. But definitely good lessons, and we don't regret any of it. So we got that license, right? And we became, and we did, and then now we started investing. Only that, around 1999, we thought about, the millennium is coming, and we wanted to actually start a company on our own, in addition to what we do. So again, this is just, for a lot of people, be like, wow, that's too much. But it was never too much. It was just like, how much more can we do, and how we can just kind of set ourselves, a little bit of financial freedom and have a lifestyle that we can enjoy. And Mazin loves nice cars, and and so do I, and other things. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. People can be content with what they have. We have nothing against that. And we had a phase of our lives where I personally, dropped everything and just, lived a very, very, simple life. But choices, that's okay. But the fact is, if you have what it takes, you want to do it, there's plenty of opportunities. And again, for those of you watching internationally, worldwide, this is not, maybe in the US, because we are in the States, we are in New York, and there's a lot more action and stuff and potential. But some of the stuff we've done could be done anywhere else. And in that fact, I travel around the world and I see the success stories all over. There are people that are making money left and right anywhere in the world, even the parts that you think that people are poor or they don't have money. You see a lot of moolah, a lot of cash, a lot of investments, a lot of, nice cars, a lot of nice houses. And sometimes you wonder how these people are doing it, but they do it, right? So that's the concept. So in 99, we came up with this concept. The company was Millennium Services International. So again, the name also was a little catchy. It was Millennium, Services, because we had multiple services, and it was international. So we would try to do some import, export, and other things. So we kind of combined all that in the name, and then we started. And in there, we were like doing multiple things, right, Mazin? Do you remember all the stuff we did in there?
Oh man, we would bring Hisham is an only child, right? So Hisham, when he came into my life, I introduced him to my cousins. I introduced him to my friends. I introduced him to my circle of influence. And
told you I was adopted.
Basically adopted him, right? So when we started this company, one of the things was, well, why don't we do like a referral services? Or we brought in, people to sell prepaid legal at that time. We brought people in to sell different referral services. So I brought 8 of my cousins and said, hey, we got an opportunity for you, all commission, because again, as startups go, and we brought them in and we said, here's what we need you guys to do. And we hired them, we brought them in, we trained them, because Hisham, again, as long as we were in this business, just back step a second. We would start a position, and Hisham and I would always be saddled with somebody to train. So even in our infancy stage of this career, people say, you're good at what you do. You know how to explain what you do. There were some people at the time that were better than us that would stand up and say, I don't know how to tell you this. I don't know. I just do what I do. Then they would say, okay, Hisham, you stand up. Tell us how you did it. Mazin, you stand up. Tell us how you did it. So we became kind of, offshoot trainers, so to speak, when people would they want to put on us. So we said, we can train the best of the best. Why not? So we would bring people when we started Millennium Services. We trained them how to go out there and do what they needed to do. We started a concept that whatever we can sell and make commission or referrals from, we did. And that was what Millennium Services was built on. At the time, prepaid legal was blowing up. We wanted to sell, promote prepaid legal. We wanted to promote, referral services. We wanted to do import export, like Hisham said. That Millennium Services
telecom
was where we were trying to do everything, which that led to when we went to a real estate school. Say, hey, how much would you give us if we referred students to you? And then the guy says, well, I got one better for you. Why don't you come on back? And from there, we took on half ownership. They were 50, we were 50, and then we got into the real estate school business. It's like one thing led to another, and it was amazing where you see growth, and it's like we started one business that got us into another business, and we said, okay, why not? And we still had our real estate business on the side. We were selling or renting, leasing real estate. We still had the insurance world. So we were having 3 or 4 things going on at one time, and people are like, are you crazy? Why not? How bad can it be when there's, income coming in from multiple sources? So in 99, that jumped us into the school literally 6 months, 7 months later. So we basically kept moving into different aspects of our life and bringing in more things to do. And again, you look back and like, wow, how we were just not stopped. We were just looking for the next best thing. We were looking to keep growing professionally, personally, financially, and again, it was a point where some people today are doing that. We have some successful friends that are doing multiple things also, because to Hisham's point, you never put all your eggs in one basket. Yes, we're successful. Medicare Advantage, you do sales, you get a commission. That's great, but what else can we do? And that was the mindset we had with Hisham and I, when we were starting in our careers. What else can we do? Then to Hisham's point, we went and invested into multiple properties, and just kept. We never thought about, oh, we're like this, we got the collars, we got the suits, we're better than people. No, we just kept going. We just kept pushing each other to succeed and pushing each other into different avenues, and at one point, in 99, we said, well, now we got the insurance world, we got the real estate school, we got Millennium Services, we got, a couple other things, like I said, prepaid legal. We just had a lot of things going on, Hisham. So in 99, I think that's when we started investing, and that's when we started looking at what else we can do, where else we can go. But the years kind of blend together for me. So for me,
I'm pretty lucid about those days.
like, we are. We'll hit the 50 mark. You gotta try to look back at your own reel of film and try to remember everything.
Well, it's very funny, but again, you are watching the Mayhem show, and this sounds like mayhem. I mean, we were all over the place, and frankly, I mean, it served us well, because every single thing we've done helped us actually learn tricks and new things and made us better at what we've done anyways, because you learn different things for different industries from different aspects. Just, I mean, we had we had 11,000 square foot, office, just running, it was a huge building. I mean, huge surface. I mean, we're not talking to nationals here with multiple, $1 million, companies where you have buildings. But for us, these newbies, these little guys that came in from the insurance realm, and so it was a nice opportunity for us, and we built it. And we were ambitious enough that we wanted to have our own health plan, but we could not do our own health plan. So we did the next best thing. We created under Million Services an offshoot that was actually medical and dental discounts. So if you don't have to have insurance, you can go to one of those providers in our network. So we created a network. We got our contracts done. We went to do that stuff, and we had a bunch of doctors, around the city and New Jersey that wanted to participate in the program. And so these cards, and we have agents selling them. And for every, it's a fee. You buy it, and then you go to any of the providers. There's a sliding scale or like a rate that they would be charged a percentage, a discount. And then that's it. So it was radiology, it was dental, it was vision, it was a few services that typically would cost, in addition, and for people who are not in, with insurance, since it was just cheap too. So it was a concept that worked, and we did that as well. So again, it's the closest thing to insurance without insuring anybody. So it was a simple thing, it's just discount cards, and it was just a plane. We've designed everything from scratch, based on the concept that we've learned somewhere else. And then we just, again, that's another, game that we played, for a minute. And, eventually we gave all that up because, and part of it was me. I mean, like I said, there was a point in my life I kind of wanted to take a sabbatical from everything and just kind of track, in my own life and find my own spiritual world. And I did that. And I, again, for me personally, those are the years where I've studied religion, and I've, did comparative studies and just try to, identify where I belong in terms of religion and spirituality and stuff. And it was a good time that I've had, personally. And so kind of like I backed a little bit off all that business world. And then I kind of resurfaced, and we did consulting. That's the other part in between. So we did some consulting as well with other companies, and that was pretty good in the managed care space. And so a lot of diversified stuff. And that's the thing. So, and again, every single one of those opportunities we've learned, we've gained, knowledge and skills that make us, better and better every day. So anyone out there, whatever you do, don't settle for one thing. And again, by the way, that's what your choice is. That's your choice. I mean, we're not enforcing this on anyone. I mean, we're just here to try to encourage people to do better. And, and it keeps you going, the energy and all the stuff. It makes a difference, when you do this. And so that's the main thing. So again, we are about inspiration, motivation, and encouragement. And our story is story of many, but, we're sharing it. Maybe we can potentially, touch somebody and say, oh, damn, these guys can do it. I can do it. And that's really what it is. I mean, I look at other stories of success stories, online and, shows where, I get really impressed. And even this whole thing, it's something that I'd like eventually someone is to take a piece of it and do it. And you know what? It's 3 years in the making and just booming. I mean, and we're doing just, and we're not even scratching surface here. So there's a lot of stuff. But then again, Mazin, to your point, the years went by quickly. And, and then in about, 2008, right? We wound up at VNS together working, and I actually happened to report to the dude. So that was about a year I reported to him. I'm telling you, it was not easy. It was a tough year. He didn't make my life easy, but that's okay. We made it work, and that was good. A lot of people, questioned that relationship and, whether he was doing the right thing, I was doing the right thing. And the only thing that can prove that is the results. And we delivered. And we delivered them with the right piece. And eventually people started to appreciate us as a unit and as a team. And, I got promoted in that company, and then we became equal in terms of the ranking. And then we split territories. And the funny part, we've even this, we applied our own HIP model, and we ventured, and we kind of championed the idea that, although we're two different directors, sales directors, and one is pretty much upstate, one is downstate, and what we did is we still work together. We have separate teams, but we managed the strategy together. We made policies together. We agreed to do things together. We opened territories together so our teams can actually cross paths. We did trainings together. We did everything together. So basically, we doubled up our skills, And it just served well. And, what I lacked, he had, and what he lacked, I had, and that's how we compensated. And, we did a great job. And Mazin mentioned something about the success there. The company was still a baby, and a very low membership. And then in those years that we were there, I mean, that baby went from a couple of thousand members to about 48,000 members, at the time, at least when I was there. And then it continued, Mazin stayed behind, and he did a lot more, past that. But so again, that was just the journey. But that's the thing, like, again, we're talking about teamwork. It can work, and it is challenged, by a lot of people, because people say, like, well, why do we have to do this? Why do we have, like, even our commissions, we basically had one global commission that we split, but we agreed to those terms, because this way, if my team is a little less, we made it work. His team is a little less, we made it work, but we kind of put all the operation under one roof, and one,
But you remember they challenged us on that. They're like, why should you guys benefit or not benefit, lack thereof, if your team is doing worse than my team? And we said, no, but we're a team, we're one company. If you remember how we sold it, we said, but there'll be months that he's ahead, like you said, months that I would be ahead. But they couldn't understand, they couldn't grasp that concept of brotherhood, that we wanted us both to make the decent money and not let you get penalized. Because again, as me being a senior director, I was there longer than you, right? You said that, right? I would get the choice that I wanted. Let's just say I wanted the 2 territories that made the most business. Mm-hmm. I didn't think that would be fair to you, and vice versa. So there are months that, we would succeed, or I would do better, you would do better. But we said, no, as a team, as a brotherhood, and if we want the company to succeed, the only way we can do that is if we're not in competition to each other. That's why we opened up the territory. We opened up the borders, because every other company, if you're in Manhattan, you shouldn't be going to Brooklyn. And if you're in Bronx, you shouldn't be going to Queens, whatever. And we said, no, we opened the chain where if you came into this company and you had an existing relationship with a provider that's going to feed you leads and allow you to work, why should I put somebody else in there? We'll let you stay there. And that's not your territory. But in the beginning, even the agents, the sales reps were upset because like, oh, well, why are they coming into our territory? That's okay. Do you have a relationship in Brooklyn? Go to Brooklyn. You can work that doctor. Be just like them. It's, we want to make it an open territory versus the wild, wild west.
Well, no. Well, there are rules about that. So what we did, and this is
I'm saying there's rules established, but again, we tried to make it, where we didn't kill the business.
Right. Well, so again, just to share with people, the strategy was very simple, and that strategy applies anytime, anywhere if you want to do it and it makes sense. So if you have an account, you're not going to come to my account, right? So if I open an account, let's say I have a relationship with a provider or pharmacy or a church or anybody, in particular, or leader, elected official, whatever. So that relation, and it happens to be in a territory that I'm not in, that prevents, it's actually a hindrance to the company, because I'm not going to give you that resource if I don't have the ability to actually access it, right? So by allowing this, we were able to really open up doors that were closed and some of the people that happened to be in that territory didn't have access to. So that's kind of like the concept behind. But also in addition to that, what we did is like, okay, well, events are events, right? RVs are RVs. So if you're in Brooklyn, you can't go to the RV, for example. RVs, by the way, for those around the world, is basically those community outreach vehicles. They basically deploy around the city, and locations where there's commercial and people can interact with the agents and be able to present to them. Anyways, or events, that kind of thing. If you have a doctor, that's an account. Everybody's assigned doctor. No one else can go to that doctor, right? Now, if an event happens and I create that event, let's say in my territory, and I'd like somebody else to help me, then I get first dibs to the event, and I can invite someone that I feel comfortable from another team to support. Because some events you need more than one person. Some seminars you need a lot, more than just one or two people. We've done some large scale events, where we had 30 reps, one event. I mean, it's a humongous, effort, and everybody chips in. And sometimes we even have an extended team where we bring in people from customer service and other departments to support and help. So that's kind of like what it is. So the strategy was sound, and it did serve us for best, as opposed to we cut in territories. Now some people can almost argue that idea. Well, by creating competition you're going to try to get competitive. That's a model that works, right? But then it creates animosity, and it creates, envy, and people step on each other's toes, and it gets a little negative. But we can do the same way by working together. And again, there is no one that can ever challenge, anyone when it comes to the more of us is always better than a few of us, and that's always going to be, whether brain-wise, whether ideology, strategy, you name it, even effort. I mean, one of us can only carry so much, two of us can carry more, 10 of us can carry a lot more, and that's exactly the concept.
But Hisham, you have to understand, the world of sales is cutthroat, right? So people, but they didn't understand our relationship. They didn't understand, again, the brotherhood that we built over the years, and that we both wanted each other to succeed. And again, not everybody's going to agree to what we did and how we did it, but I think at that time, it got us to be number 4 in the state where we were last. Again, don't forget, I started there before you, right? We had 6 reps. We went to 11 reps. We went to 18 reps. We went to the most we had when MLTC was shut down for a year. Basically, that's the only time we doubled to 34, 35 reps. But
no.
100 agents, had 128 agents, 60 agents. We didn't have that.
We got to 120 actually. You mentioned 120.
No, but again, how long did it take us to get there? My point. When I started, I had 6 agents, Hisham, when everyone else had 20. Everybody kept getting 60, 70, 80, and 120 agents. It was ridiculous. We had 120 agents because MLTC and MA together at one point.
Mazin, I do want to bring something funny to the story here. So when I got back from my sabbatical, and actually sabbatical being that I actually moved out of New York, and I moved out to the northern part of New York, where on the border of Canada. And so when I got back, and my family and my parents didn't like the area there was just too cold and too quiet. They say, let's go back to New York where the action is. So I got back. I was supposed to be the manager with Mazin, but that didn't happen. And the only thing that was offered to me is a rep. So I actually worked for Mazin for like 3 months as a rep. And then I had an opportunity to move somewhere else, to be a senior manager somewhere else. And then ultimately I got back, with Mazin as the lead manager. And then that's when he actually was my director and I was manager. But that's a funny story. But and the reason I'm bringing this, maybe out of the blue, but the concept of sometimes you got to step back. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and you still have to make it happen. You do your job, you move on, right? Sometimes, when you decide to make decisions in life, sometimes you have to also accept the ramifications of those decisions. You can't blame people in the world for your decisions because that was your decision. So it was my decision to leave behind my career path for a minute, for about a year. And ultimately, when you come back, it's not the same. When you're in the industry, when you're working for companies, there's a good chance you are being watched and people looking for the competitors and see like who's working, who are the players. And it's like, being in the NFL or whatever, any other type of sports, there's the scouts, they're looking like who are the best talents, that we can, snatch from one team to the other and while we do the drafts, right? In this case, same thing. Now, when you're out of sight, out of mind, no one knows knows about it anymore. You disappear for a minute and they don't know if you're live. And this was even before, the world of social media, hype, right? It was just in the beginning of it. So most people didn't even get on Facebook at the time. And so that's what happened. So, but I had to make the choice that, I'm back. I got to accept what I have in front of me and I got to get started again. And so I literally went from directorship back, to a rep level. And, it was a small stint time, but, from there to management, to senior manager, and then back to director again, and then to VP and chief and all that stuff. But the fact of the matter, that's a story for people out there. So even if you have a setback in life, you have the skills. It doesn't matter. Some people may not see the skills. And I was told that I was not impressive at a point, because people didn't see the value that, that they didn't, in management, you need a little bit of time. That doesn't happen overnight. It would be almost, fooling someone to say like, I can do this overnight. We do believe that we're one of the best people doing this job out there. And, not only because we believe in it, because we've proven it over the years, as you said, and half of the industry, we've either worked with, or if not more than half, actually. Between the two of us, I think we've covered every plan in the state. Over the years, we've actually been to every plan that exists, except the new plans that maybe just popped up, recently. But overall, we've been through all those plans, and we've covered. We've known when we go together. If someone I don't know, they know him. If they don't know him, they know me. And that's kind of like the concept. But again, just a quick advice: if you're out there and you are making live changes, know that it's got to come with some disappointment, some changes. sometimes it's going to be hard to come back. And it is what it is. You just have to roll with the punches, make it happen. That's all. So that's it for me. I just wanted to clarify that part, because that was unique, because again, I reported twice to him, as a matter of fact, not just once. One's a rep, one's a manager. And again, being my friend and stuff, and I still had to see, I have a rule. Because he's my friend, I have to do the best and better than most, because I don't want no one to point a finger at him or me. See, that's the other part. I'm not taking advantage of him, because I know by even allowing me to be in his team, people are going to be like, oh, you're going to cover for your thing, if your friend, this is your guy, right? You're going to manage him. None of that stuff. We don't apply that rule. Funny rule is that his brother, reported to me, or we're friends too, family, but practically he reported to me at a different stages, and same rules applied. They did the job, and we are very simple. You don't do the job, you're not going to get the job. You're not going to keep the job. So we cut that umbilical cord, family matters, outside the stuff. No harm, no foul, nothing. If you don't do your job, it's not. So for people out there, these are concepts that you can apply. And I know they're very maybe unorthodox, maybe different, not just standard, but the world is not based on standard. If we were just doing the same thing over and over, it would be, too monotonous. It will be just like the doll, right? There's always different things, and there's always new ways and new strategies. What I'll be sharing with you is something different. Maybe that can apply to your current situation, whatever you are around the world and whatever you do today. So that's it. I just wanted to. So I guess I got you with your water there. No, I need the water. Go for it.
Yeah, no, I think in my opinion, right? In my opinion, look, you're gonna have your trials and tribulations. You're gonna go through, like you said, your life where you have ups and downs. You go backwards, you go forward. We all, no matter if you're in sales, if you're doing a pizza store, you're doing a deli, you're working, you're working for Taco Bell. What are your aspirations, right? You and I, again, because we were on a similar path, our aspirations were always to grow, to keep growing, and we grew again, professionally, personally, we grew, together. And I think that's what made us successful. That was what built the bond. Listen, like you said, we're not easy to get along with. Taurus the bull that's why they call it Taurus the bull. We are bulls in a sense, because we have 8 personalities. We want to succeed. We want it our way or the highway. No, difference of us where we don't always say we are pig-headed, we're bulls, is that we listened. We listened to people's opinions. We took people's opinions. We adapted a lot of people's opinions, right? And suggestions and recommendations. That was what made us different. We didn't say it's my way or the highway. We didn't say it's your way or the highway. And when we worked together and at VNSNY, when you became a director, they came to us and said, okay, you're Mayhem, you're Double Trouble, but you know what? We need your help. Our CEO was retiring. She had 92 members in MLTC, and she wanted to have her milestone of 10,000 MLTC.
It was 7,500 members, and they wanted.
7,500. We need
3 months. In 3 months.
In 3 months. So we said, okay, what do you need us to do? We sat down. We looked at their process. We looked at how they were doing things. We said,
we learned MLTC.
That's how we got right. We learned by fire, right? They said, come on, let's go. You got to get this done for us. And she got her 10,000. I think it was 11,000 when she retired. And then in 2 years, we doubled their membership. So we, again, took a challenge, right? We didn't know nothing about long-term care, managed long-term care. And we said, okay, we'll help you. And then all of a sudden, their enrollment liaison started reporting to us. And then all of a sudden, we were now managing not just Medicare Advantage, we were managing MLTC. And now we're like, okay, how do we benefit from this? And then we created synergies where we both have them tag teaming and teaming up now at events so we can grow the business, because now they both reported to us. So both departments reported to us, and we grew both programs. So again, the synergies is because you and I work well together. You and I, again, had that brotherhood. If it was where most of every other organization, a challenge or a team thing, it's you versus me, I don't even know if we would have grew as well as we did. Because then it was always, look at him, look at her, and vice versa. And I think we wouldn't have grew as much. But again, that's one man's opinion, your opinion. anyone else's opinion can be different. Where sometimes challenge each other, people grow differently, right? The competition is good. That's okay. But I think to what you and I have already have brought out in this first meeting on Mayhem is that our brotherhood made us do different things differently. Our brotherhood helped us grow. Our brotherhood helped take VNSNY to that next level. Every organization has their issues and concerns and comments, and the people can say this or that. But in my opinion, our brotherhood is what set us apart.
Well,
Our brotherhood is what helped us grow to those levels.
No, true, and that is fact. And again, brotherhood, partnership, and relationship was almost vital to this process. But also, I do want to give credit, when it's due. Our leadership also, was savvy and understood our personalities and really gave us. And we have someone that actually was at the helm for our unit that saw what our value was and allowed us to play. And that's important, and that's leadership 101. You don't suppress your bulldogs and your tough cookies, by becoming super micromanaging. If as a leader, understand, strong, holds and strong, powers and whatever you want to call them, and you apply that. And so our leader at the time, saw that value, and he gave us, okay, you guys, again, we can name his name because he's a dear friend of ours, Brian Henry. He actually gave us that opportunity and say, okay, you guys can run the show, and he came from pharma, so he knew sales and he understood that world better than most, right? And he's a sales leader for years, more experience that we had in sales, and obviously we're all sales leaders. But again, we also value mentorship. That's the other thing. You're in leadership doesn't mean you don't learn. And we've learned, but also the concept of leadership is a big here, because without that leadership level and understanding and seeing, I think Steve Jobs said it best, is that, you don't hire people and tell them what to do. You hire them to tell you what to do, right? And so your leadership is key. And so that level of personality that we had in the person of Ryan, he was like, okay, you guys are the expert in this business. I got no business telling you what to do, but we need to see results. What you need. We need flexibility. We need this. We need that. And he said, okay, you got this. Do it. Go around with it. And that was it. See, that's a big differentiator when sometimes you got inhibited. Every time I want to do this, no, we can't do that. Because everybody is looking at it from their own way. But you want the best, you got to deliver, you got to allow the best to do the best. You cannot, send troops to fight and then tell them that you can't do it. You're not there. You don't know what's going on in the real land, and you can't judge. This is not something like you read on the book. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. You mentioned something about taking the MLTC from 0 to 200 miles an hour in 3 months and delivering. We did that. And then not only that, we also expanded upstate New York. That's the other thing. Like on upstate, the first challenge was well, that's a whole different territory. Well, duh. I mean, it was different territory, but so what's the big deal? We can apply some things that we do downstate and upstate, and then we can adjust some new techniques and strategies up there. And that's exactly what we did. And we did phenomenal up there. As a matter of fact, we were going all the way to Buffalo at a certain point. So the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of stuff. But again, sometimes the tools, sometimes the people that you deal with, and we're going to bring this topic in future Mayhems about the collaboration and cooperation of other units and other departments, leadership, fails or successes. Because, sometimes, people look at you, or in your unit, you don't succeed, or because the results don't show up. But the results are attached to a set of parameters and metrics, and also decisions that are sometimes beyond your level. It doesn't matter what level you are, there's always another decision ahead of you, unless you run the company, and even when you do, there's a board that can, vet you out, right? So there's that kind of thing. So it is important to understand these dynamics and the impact of those things and how you actually operate. So again, we will bring some of this discussion in future shows, because I think it's important to understand how leadership operates. Now, we are leaders, and we've developed leaders, as Mazin stated. I mean, we have great, testimonials that we can present to you guys, or also we can tell you. I mean, we have real stories of people that actually are in the same level as we are, and they've got groomed over the years, and they've been mentored, and so on and so forth. We have mentors, and we mentor. That's the other thing. You get knowledge, you share knowledge. You don't keep it to yourself. and you value everybody. Doesn't matter what level. That's the other thing. You don't look at people I'm the boss. We don't, not bosses. We never were bosses. I'm not a boss. Mazin not a boss. We have different styles, maybe how we approach things and how we meet, whatever. But the fact is, we're about the team. And as you can see, we brotherhood, partnership team, that's the same concept with our teams. We're not the leaders. We're not the bosses. We are part of the team. We do what they do, and we can do what they do, and we show them. We lead by example. And that's important. And again, but there's a lot of nuances. There's a lot of political stuff that gets behind the scene. And it's unfortunate that, people are always about, COIA, cover my ass kind of concept, as opposed to like, what's in it for the company? How are we going to do this, right? And, everybody they like sometimes to work in silo because it's, and be in the comfort zone, and they don't like people to push and like, challenge them because like, well, you want this. Well, we need 1, 2, 3, 4. But now when you start getting into somebody's turf, they get upset about it because like, we don't want to do this. Well, guess what? We are always accountable. And that's the other thing. We're going to have a whole show about accountability. And that's a whole different dynamic of discussion. But that's kind of like what's happened here in our history is like there's some factors that are in place, some that can inhibit your actually, possibilities, and some that can really, give you that catapult. I mean, there was a point where Mazin was ready to quit that company. And there was a point he was like, excited not, to do more and work more and do crazy. Because again, different, circumstances guide sometimes your energy, right? Your enthusiasm in a place. If you get inhibited by certain factors, you might just like not deliver anymore, or you just don't care anymore. And you don't want that feeling. So that's actually studies and articles out there. I mean, whether you go to LinkedIn, whatever, there's so many, discussions about that in articles and memes and just comments about these things where people leave because they're no longer interested, or they're no longer being, feeling the enthusiasm and the support. So it's important. You wanted to say something there?
No, I think again, everything that you've said is, just brings back all these memories. And to your point, with Brian, because he came from pharma, he didn't know our world. He allowed us to grow. He allowed us to take, control and again, we were always the ones that told people, well, I always told people, if you can't put your head on a pillow and sleep comfortable at night, don't enroll somebody, right? So they knew our concept of not hurting somebody, do no harm. And that in sales, when people just want to slam people in, we made sure we were doing it right. We made sure we weren't hurting people. That's why we didn't have that many CTMs. We didn't have that many people complaining about our teams, because we did everything the way that we thought, you and I thought was the right way to do it. And we instilled that into all of our sales groups, that we control. When Brian came in, as you said, we all had somebody to report to. He allowed us to flourish. He allowed us to even grow more. And when MLTC came into the picture, he said, what do you guys need, to your point? And we did it, right? And he was one of those leaders, again, we talk about leaders, that never took credit for what we did. People would come in and say, Brian, what are you doing differently? You're like, Mayhem or Double Trouble or, the twins over there. They're the ones that do everything.
The yin and yang.
He never took that credit because he knew our value. And again, as leaders, you need to know your people's value. When we became VPs and chiefs and what have you, we had to understand the value of the people that we work with. And to your point, we didn't act as bosses. We act as colleagues because we wanted the people to know. And some other leaders that we had, like, why are you out there in the field so much? Well, if they don't see you out there in the snow, sleet, rain, and sunshine, when you up there on a perch on a tower, they're not gonna trust you. We had a leader that one time stood up and says, I never sold anything in my life. Everybody looked at him, you're the head of sales. People lose respect if you don't show them that you're of like mind. You're willing to be out there in the inclement weathers and the nice days, and they see you for that. I think that's why people respected you and me, and respected other leaders that went out there, weren't afraid to be out there in any weather, in any beautiful day, or there were days that people like this, shaking, shivering, and we're out there with them. there were days that you're sweating because the sun was so hot, and we're like, well, we're out here with you. And I think that's where more of our respect came from, because not only did we know what we were doing, we were out there with them. Again, me and you, I can speak for you on this one. We always say lead by example, right? But there are other leaders that never wanted to be that example, and I think that's the difference. So again, I would say the differentiator for you and I, and that's the stuff that we embedded in our own systems and our own processes and how we manage our staff.
Well, Mazin,
this has been great, Hisham. I got to jump off. If you don't mind. We went over our promised hour, but it was exciting. First meeting. But I thank you for having me on, and thank you for creating the Mayhem show. And hopefully our future shows can expand on different topics.
And yeah, thank you, Mazin. And I know, again, we're running out of time right now, so we'll be closing the show. And so, folks, just stay tuned for more of these Mayhem shows, and it's going to be a series, and we're going to continue doing this. And there will be a point where we'll have it live, so people can interact with us directly, and you can ask questions, whether it's about business strategy, and also just Mazin is the president of Health Plans, and you'll see the advertising on the actual show. So there's consulting there, and there's brokerage and all the stuff. We started this company a few years back. He leads the New York division on it, and he makes it, happen. So again, we'll talk more about also the services. So for corporations and things like that, we'll talk about what the services are and how it all plays. So we'll have a whole series. So stay tuned for more fun. All right. That being said, American Age. Mazin,
and thanks for having us on your show, Hisham. Thanks for having me. And I hope
it is your show too now, so you're not a guest. You're the host.
Listen, thank you for you're always been a trendsetter. Thank you for creating it, and I really hope that people can benefit from that. And then maybe when we do a live show, maybe we can impart some of our wisdom, our experiences to help people starting out.
And we'll have guests also, so stay tuned for more fun. That being said, ciao for now. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Ciao.